JP Morgan Chase, some people didn't know me, said, well, should we focus on costs or revenues? And it's kind of a gambit. It doesn't really matter. I call it waste cutting. We had 10 million vacant square feet. We had data centers in major New York cities, in major buildings in downtown cities. We had twice as many staff people as we needed in certain areas. We were so bureaucratic, it took literally 90 days to do something we should have done in 5. And that stifles an organization. It cripples it. It's a disease. And the more important part is when we have, I call them business reviews, is that what are the things, and it's not revenues, it's everything. Better client service, better products, where you're adding bankers, you're recruiting the right people, are you building the systems? We're spending $1.5 billion in data centers. Right. We're spending $500 million more in marketing. We insist on where are the investments. So Steve Black, who walked in here, who runs the investment bank, went through yesterday with us, where they're going to spend $1 billion more investing. Across the whole, it's around the world, and it's from systems, because in certain categories, systems are going to differentiate you. In other areas, it's kind of R&D into things like, you may not know this, but the pension world is changing. Accounting is changing, what companies are going to do with it, and therefore we're putting R&D into what can we do kind of on a derivative basis to help companies manage their pension liabilities better. So there's a lot of R&D in some of these businesses. Absolutely. And that'll differentiate you.
Let me ask you something that ties together strategy and leadership. And that's, you've talked a lot about the initiatives, you've talked a lot about places you can go, things you can do, and you've said very accurately that you can't do it all yourself and you can't understand it all yourself. Right. You've got to, in a real sense, trust the folks you work with. How do you learn who to trust? How do you, in terms of their judgment and their...
It's a great question, and it's probably one of the most important. First of all, like I said before, you go to a lot of these companies and people, they don't want anything move. They like it the way it is. And you're an interloper, and the way you learn to trust, I call it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's at the bar, it's getting to know people. And honestly, I tell people there's a book in every one of you. So I don't even have to meet you, okay? So I can I can talk to your peers, I can talk to your students, I can talk to your friends. I'll know a lot more about you than you think.
Probably more than I do.
Well, yeah, how hard you work, how much other people trust you, whether people say, fabulous. And some people inside a company, they are the glue. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily the loudest, but they are the heart and soul of a place, and you can find them, and you seek them out. I have to earn people's trust. So I don't walk in there like, well, you have to trust me because I'm the boss, because I know you're not going to. But if you see that I do what I say, and I say what I do, and if you give me a confidence, it's not violated, that you start to trust me, and you can speak openly and freely, and vice versa, and you develop and build trust. And like I said, a lot of it does not happen at business meetings. It happens, on one-to-ones and at dinners and things like that.
Let me ask one last question, and I want to turn this over to the folks. And that's really, let me sort of transition to thinking about the folks here, is what advice you have for MBA students and others who are both as they're looking for their next job, and equally as they're looking out at the rest of their careers and thinking about where they want to go.
Yeah, so I'll try to give you the best I can. Number one, you're really making a couple of decisions when you join a company, okay? And one is the people you're going to work for directly. Well, 3 decisions. The people you work for directly, the actual job itself, and the company. And they're all kind of really important. So I would look and weigh and measure all of them a little bit. Because, very often, I remember graduating business school, I remember people sitting around, and back then when you graduate business school, I think people were getting like $38,000 a year. People would say, well, I'm getting 42 over here, and I don't like the company as well, but 42, it's a lot more than 38. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's the irrelevant fact. And what's relevant, if you really like the people, because if you have kind of a bond, they're going to take care of you, challenge you. You kind of already hit it off. The job is important, but I would tell you in that one, you don't really know what you like yet. Most of my friends who graduated, you think you like sales and you kind of like trading. You think you like marketing, you kind of like, running something. You think you like, and you're going to try a lot of those. So go with your instinct, but you should assume that you're going to try a few and you can see what other people are doing and it may look more attractive to you, and your needs change. You get married, you have kids, you may not want to travel as much, so the job itself will change, and therefore the company also becomes important, because a good company will give you other choices. So if I hope at JP Morgan Chase, if we think you're great, and you say, you know what, I'd like to go live in Chicago for a couple of years or try my hand, I've been in investment banking, but I'd like to can I actually run one of those business units you have one day? And we should say, yeah, we should present you with other opportunities in life that would be great for you, whether it's living around the world, whether it's inside the investment bank, or it's inside other businesses.
Okay. Good stuff. Let me ask for folks here what questions you have. Take advantage of the opportunity to speak with Jamie. And I'll stand up and moderate. Go ahead.
I have a question. In terms of growth in the institutional marketplace with JP Morgan, different firms in the street are doing different things. Goldman Sachs has been great with their prop trading. Stanley O'Neill, Merrill Lynch is putting a lot into commodities. Morgan Stanley's working on the hedge fund business. What do you see for the big drivers? I know a lot of it is how much risk you're going to take, but what do you see driving the institutional business going forward?
Yeah, so when you talk about some of those things, again, I know what all the competition is doing. So we're already big in hedge funds. We already have a fairly large prop trading group and things like that, and we've also built energy and commodities. And so I actually focus more on building us. So if you actually look at our global businesses, it's 150 trading desks around the world. Now we lump them up into credit rates, and at credit you might say, bond and derivatives and high yield and high grade and loan, and you may try that in 5 different markets around the world, but it's 150. And in each one, you got to have the right systems, the right products, the right people, and the right order flow and the right ability to manage it. So we should have built out those things. So we're building energy, we're building mortgages, we're building pension, we're building MPLs. And to me, risk, when you look at risk, it's not just say we want to take risk, you want to get paid for the risk you take. You can take a lot of risk and not get paid, and so obviously, Goldman's done a great job at that. But I've never said to people, don't take risk. We are doing deals is risk taking. The risk decisions they're large and risky, but if you have the right people, you should build a business. So we're building it our way, and some people do similar stuff and some don't, but we don't spend that much time worrying about it. I always assume the competition is going to be tough. Always. It's like I've never been in a business. People, you go to these business reviews and people say, well, our margins are shrinking and the competition's tough and margins are shrinking. I hate to tell you, I don't think I've ever been at a business meeting where someone said, you know what, my margins are expanding, the competition seems to be going away. That's what capitalism is. The competition's coming after you regardless of, and there's always someone good. So, I don't say, well, if they falter, that's good for us because there's someone else right behind them. And I'd always say, let's assume the good competition in that business.
Yeah, maybe Nucor in the steel industry a few years ago, and it was when it was only competing against U.S. Steel.
That's correct.
Or Toyota when it was only competing against a few companies that we know only too well.
That's correct.
Yeah. Other thoughts, questions?
My question is about infrastructure finance. Would you please comment on the outlook for that for the next 5 to 10 years?
The what?
The infrastructure finance.
Oh.
Mark Weisdorf leads the group.
Yeah, it's a huge market. Infrastructure finance, as you see, Chicago has a toll road, and they just sold it for $1.8 billion. Indiana toll road, I think by the time they finish it, it could be $20 billion. So people selling airports, they're selling roads, they're selling, anything that municipalities, governments own, they can actually sell and turn it into a business. So what it is, you advise on it, you finance it, you manage it, and so we're gearing up inside kind of public finance, we're staffing up to have an infrastructure group, and they're going to go after that marketplace. And we've been involved in some, and some people, this Macquarie Bank in Australia has probably done the best job of all. They start early, they start in Australia, but they've expanded around the world. I think they bought the Chicago Tollway, or an Australian bank. So you look at how the world is globalized, Australian banks are buying, Chicago roads, and, Chicago companies are buying Australian banks, and but I think people estimate it's going to be $2 trillion in total. My guess is that might be light.
Other thoughts?
There's one over there.
Great.
It seems starting in the 90s that M&A advisory started changing from being a relationship business to a transactional type business. Can you comment on how that's affected the way you operate?
I think it's still both. So most corporations, when they want help on M&A, and that's so close to the heart of the company, they will go to their top advisor, someone they know and someone they